number 2, Mr. Clerk.
Number 2, discussion necessary action regarding discontinuance of curbside spring rubbish pickup and implementation of ticket program for rubbish and yard waste.
Members of the council, at your request, I put out a document through our city website, through our city Facebook page, and for each one of you to use with your constituents regarding the common council seeking input on the elimination of the curbside spring cleanup program. I know that all of the members of the council last night attended the Board of Public Works meeting where additional information was provided. Being aware that a quorum of the council was going to be present when Alderman Hollenbeck emailed me that said that more than 3 aldermen would be there, the city clerk's notice published the proper meeting notices to ensure that there were no open meetings law violations or anything like that. So again, I appreciate the non-aldermanic members who are not on that board taking the time out of their schedules to come in and gather additional information from that meeting last night. As we come here tonight, the Director of Public Works and Engineering, Director Lang, has provided the council additional information regarding if the council wants to continue or go back to the curbside spring cleanup. This council has to decide a way to pay for it. Again, I think we've tried to do a very good job in educating the public in the fact that the spring cleanup is not paid for through the general tax levy, i.e. their taxes that our residents pay, is paid through a combination of the recycling and garbage funds. In addition to that, we've tried to do a good job of re-educating the public regarding those funds and what additional services those provide. I would just like to make one comment regarding input that I've received from residents, and then regarding some of the citizen input we heard tonight. As you have reached out to your constituents and gotten feedback, I have received 4 responses from citizens. Some of these, I believe, you may have been copied as individual aldermen or the entire council. The 4 responses I got back were, number 1, keep it the same. 2 people that said bring the spring cleanup back, but make people pay more for it. And the 4th response was bring back the cleanup, offer once a month bulk cleanup, and no way to pay for it. That's a problem. That's why, again, when I talked to this council 2 weeks ago and said whatever decision you make, you have to make sure there are funds available to fund what your ultimate move is. We heard citizens talk tonight that came forward, and there was a theme through Mike, and I'm going to say his last name, Kenzie from Cudahy Avenue, where he said, talk to how South Milwaukee looks at things. Another gentleman had mentioned in one of his emails, how can St. Francis do bulk pickup once a month as compared to Cudahy not doing the bulk pickup? The problem is when you look at something like a spring cleanup, which very few communities do anymore, and you try to compare these services apples to apples, it's when you look at these individual funds like the garbage and the recycling fund and what services those are providing to our residents. Let's talk about leaf collection for a second. Here in the city of Cudahy, we started in October, we pushed leaves through the end of November or the first snowfall, that's 2 months. In South Milwaukee, they collect them for about a 1-month period. In St. Francis, they collect them for a 1-month period. We do it for 2 months. Okay, again, if you want to say we're no longer going to push leaves for 2 months, then we'll only do it for 1 month, because again, you got to find a way to pay for it, right? Right? I mean, that is the way you have to look at it. When you talk about, the gentleman came up here and talked about West Dallas and the picking up of old TVs. Nobody does it for free anymore. We do it, we offer it to our citizens with whatever we get charged, we get charged. The problem is when you have spring cleanup and magically TVs just show up on people's lawns, where do they go? They go to the Board of Public Works or appeal because it costs us $15, $20, $40, $80, whatever the current disposal cost is. The citizens shouldn't be fitting the bill for an additional $8, $10, $20,000 in electronic waste that we can't afford. The other part is, and again, maybe the city of Cudahy was foolish years ago. Taking grass clippings in is illegal, isn't it? By DNR and state law, municipalities are not supposed to collect grass clippings. But what do? What have we been doing here for years? Much longer than any one of us have ever been sitting up here, right? We're collecting grass clippings. So aren't we guilty by association, and we're trying to get rid of it. And again, when Growing Power, an organization that's touted throughout the county, could take them away for free, the deal worked out pretty good, didn't it? But when that same DNR turned around and said Growing Power can't take them in for free and there's gonna be a charge, guess what? Your cost of doing business goes up, doesn't it? And here we are to 2016. You know, from the analysis that was talked about, and I'm gonna ask Director Lang to come up here, and I guess there was a question and some information that Alderwoman St. Marie Belfast requested from the meeting last night, was that how many people had used the tickets during the changeover period here in 2016, and she had a question specifically about her district. The number I had heard was around 40 to 50% of the residents through this month had come in and pick up their tickets. And again, I know that based on the discussions last night at the Board of Public Works, Director Lang had some of her staff doing some research. So if you'd like to talk to the council regarding that and anything else regarding your recommendations, Director Lang.
Okay, getting back to your question last night about your residents. You have a little trickier, trickier district because you have the condos, a large condo complexes. But we looked at it, and 1,273 tickets were not picked up to date in your area. So I'm not sure in how many households, but that's how many addresses have not picked up their tickets to date. That includes your condo developments, or the condo developments. As far as the spring cleanup's concerned, and it's kind of funny listening to the county, because I think Alderman Likowitz said, well, have you learned anything about not raising the taxes? And for years and years, the last time the recycling fee was raised was in 2004. And since I've been here over 8 years, and I told the board this, I have spent more time on yard waste and dump and garbage issues, and trying to dodge the bullet, and trying to provide the services, and going, this is a topic every year at the Board of Public Works. Because every time we ask to raise the garbage fee, raise the recycling fee, no, we can't do that, we can't do that, we can't do that. So we're working on reserves, and those reserves are set aside to pay cash for new garbage trucks to collect, or even used garbage trucks to collect the leaves, to buy equipment for the recycling, to make the drop-off site to comply with state standards. And that can't happen when you're using those reserves to offset operating costs. And the thing with the fees is different from taxes. Taxes you can put in a surplus, but they can't be used specifically for items that the Department of Public Works need in recycling. So a recycling fee actually goes, it's a fee, and it's specifically made and saved for that, and used for that. So there's a difference between rates and there's a difference between taxes. But in any case, we are, by 2018, we will be operating in deficit. So you will have to look at raising the fee. And that doesn't even mean make any changes at the drop-off site and adding spring cleanup. I also have 600 dead trees. The winds of a week ago damaged 6 vehicles. There were 6 trees that should have came out. I'm not able to do that because I have a smaller department and we have other priorities. And right now that priority is going to be trees. So we are not capable of picking up spring cleanup. So we will have to contract it out, which means the contracting cost right now is going to be twice. If we can find a contractor to do it, it would be twice the cost of our own DPW picking it up. So that's another issue. So if you have any questions, or questions that didn't come up at the meeting yesterday?
One of the other things that I thought of, Director Lang, is that, sometimes the residents say, well, when you changed over from the city employees picking up the garbage to going with a private contractor like Advance, When we go back to 2013, 2014, when we sent out the bids and made the change, there were only 3 firms that bid on picking up our municipal waste, correct? In doing that, one of the firms didn't even want to touch alleys and garbage cans. They wanted everything coming to the front. And it sounds like when we renegotiate the contract in 2019, that's going to be coming, correct?
The alleys will be an issue and the condos will be an issue.
Right. The other part of it is, if you remember in the savings, in 2013 dollars, $130,000 a year in debt service was dedicated principal and interest to the purchase of garbage trucks. That's in 2013 dollars. Fast forward to 2016, the cost of those trucks today is gonna be more than the $130,000 a year in debt service, which is tax levy, to operate machinery to pick up garbage and recyclables. That's why most communities, if they haven't gotten out of the garbage business, they're getting themselves out. Our neighbors to the south in South Milwaukee, again, the gentleman asked the question, years ago, you used to be able to put out anything you wanted in any type of can you wanted. Now in South Milwaukee in 2016, they're going through about a 16-month process of going to the automated carts. So all you get is one automated cart, and you don't get any additional bulk that you can put out at any time. Now again, granted, you can take stuff there to their dump, you know, for the $2 fee or you know, $3 fee, but they are also looking at it in their budget and the cost of the disposal, which is the variable, if you will, that when you look at when we had the open dump and we were getting rid of what, 200 dumpsters a year?
363.
Okay, I figured you would remember the numbers there. And we're down to what?
We're down to about, this year, we're probably looking at 30 dumpsters.
And what's the cost of getting rid of a dumpster?
It's
A fee plus the weight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's about $200 plus the $45 per ton.
So if you're gonna take and quadruple, if that's even a word, to go back to the amount of dumpsters that we had in the past, you're gonna have to quadruple the fee proportionately, because you're gonna be taking that much more material in, correct?
Well, at the time, the Board of Public Works, because we instituted a fee, it cost $70 to get rid of a pickup truck full of material. The drop-off site was not set up to subsidize landlords or people that have side businesses, or even for people who want to clean out their garages, clean out their mother's house or whatever. I mean, there are outfits that Advance can take it for a special pickup fee. You have outfits like Got Junk, you have all of those. We're not in the business, the department is not in the business to run a garbage operation. There are outfits out there to do that. The drop-off site was set up to take small items that didn't fit into your garbage can that you needed to get rid of. When you have large-scale projects, when you have a business, there's dumpsters, there's other things, and I think people are starting to lose face of that it is very costly for the city to haul that stuff away. And when you really look at it, the majority of people that are subsidizing are the people who are paying that recycling fee, and just looking at the tickets, only half of the tickets have been picked up. So those half of the people are subsidizing other people and their projects.
In addition to that, the reason that you have or had to pay the dump fee, again, for the council to remember, was that the state of Wisconsin and the Department of Natural Resources recycling grant was cut the first time by $67,000, thus the original dump fee, and then in the most recent biennium budget was cut again, and we believe around $16,000, supposedly going to be reinstated where we would get the money back, but yet the state legislature has yet to provide the source of funds to bring us back to par where we were 2 years ago. So the state on one hand tells us we're required to do all these things, but yet they don't give the source of funds to be able to do it. So here we are. All right, at this time I'm going to open it up to the council if they have any questions of Director Lang. Alderman Morales.
Just quickly, can you clarify for everybody what would be the direct impact on how much the fees will be across the board? So if it's recycling, if it's garbage, how much more are they gonna have to pay if we bring back spring cleanup?
If we bring back spring cleanup, we have to contract it out. And I haven't had any bids, but estimates are that we would have an increase of $16 on the recycling fee and $15 on the garbage fee.
Okay, and what would your estimate be on fee increase just to the recycling fund to maintain proper funding going forward as well on top of that?
Without trying to have any reserves for future equipment.
Well, I mean, I suggest this with the estimate, what for reserves, you know,
For reserves?
for reserves.
Well, without reserves, just in 2018, you're looking at about $4. With reserves, because we use the reserves to buy garbage carts, and half the city doesn't have the new garbage carts. So we were probably looking at $10 to $12 in the recycling fund in 2018. That's what you're looking at an increase.
Which makes sense, so.
Okay. Yeah, Alderman,
To go on Alderman Morales' comment, we can't even raise the fees for next year though, correct?
We cannot raise the fee. The fee is collected a year in advance, so it's a little late. We had to get that on the tax bill and figure that all out like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So fees that would impact the 17 budget?
it would actually, it would be passed either in calendar 16 or calendar 17, and the impact wouldn't be, it wouldn't go on to the tax bill until calendar 17 for payment in calendar 18.
So would you then delay the additional carts, or if the fees, anything that we impose today will obviously wouldn't show up in the bank to 2018, how would we even pay for a 2017?
Doing a spring cleanup in 17. I
A
think
spring
is
cleanup,
what-
yeah.
We couldn't do a spring cleanup. The only way you could do a spring cleanup at this point, we have nothing in the carts. We have no cart purchases. I'll have to look to see if we can even swing that. And I've cut a lot of stuff in the recycling to try to get to try to balance it out. But yeah, again, financially, you would have to send out a revised. You'd have to send out bills to every cart owner to increase it in order to pay for spring cleanup.
Any additional questions, Alderman Lakewood?
Do you want to explain for some of the citizens that don't know, explain why the new carts had to be purchased?
Well, the new carts had to be purchased because whether it was us or the contractor, the carts are old. They're 20 years old.
At least.
They're at least. Some of them are older. They're supposed to last about 12 years. And so they were breaking and they were splitting and the wheels were coming off and we could no longer get parts. And so we had so many that we actually, the contractor brought in spare carts for us because we didn't have any carts. So we went out to purchase carts, but I don't think people realize how expensive. We spent all over, between garbage and recycling, we spent over $300,000 and got half the city with new carts.
So can you explain the rationale behind the contractors dropping the old carts, smashing them, breaking the wheels off, and their excuse was, they're old, they're past the 12-year life cycle, we're not paying for them, and then we're on the hook.
Right, but you can't charge, we couldn't go back and charge and blame it on the contractor when we have old carts. Now, the new carts, we have an agreement that if they break the new carts, that they are fully responsible to refund us the money for the carts. But to go after the contractor and say, well, you have, 20, 30-year-old carts, of course they're gonna break. So, that's where we're at with carts.
And just for the record on that too, it wasn't just we went out one day and you decided that you're just gonna buy new carts. That was obviously planned for some time to purchase
That
it.
was
Correct.
planned, that was planned over, and we had the money in reserve by doing all these manipulations over the last 8 years. So we had money in reserve, but that money no longer is in reserve, and any excess money we had in reserve is going to be used to pay to keep us afloat in 2017.
And that's why I've met with Director Lang as well as Finance Director Schuchnick to talk about, just like when the city, through the general fund, has a surplus, if the council remembers, 10% goes right directly towards the OPEB liability. We are looking at putting in through a municipal ordinance, any surplus that's in the recycling or the garbage fund, we're throwing a number around of 25% would be automatically placed into an equipment fund, if you will. So 5 years down the road, we're not kicking the cat down the road and saying the reserves are there, so you don't have to go out and borrow money, which costs money to buy things like garbage cans or recycling cans.
So,
Yeah, Alderwoman Singer, go.
I have a question. I know at the meeting yesterday, they talked, one of the committee members talked about that there was a discussion regarding, having the opportunity for citizens to buy additional tickets. But then, nothing further was talked about at yesterday's meeting as far as the reasoning, of possibly why that would be an option. As we heard tonight, and Mary, you said it yourself, there was a thread, we have a few citizens who came, they're not necessarily, homeowners, but they would like to, they care about our city and again, want to discard items appropriately and would be willing to pay to use the dump.
Right, and on your point, Alderwoman Singer-Belby, yeah, I mean, Amber Slazewski, and again, I apologize for slaughtering your name, talked about that, Jenny Jack talked about that, and others as well. They talked about the ability to potentially, and Mr. Jeff Jensen also talked about the potential ability to purchase more tickets, so go ahead and answer the question.
Well, the thing is, it has to be at our cost, and that's the problem we run into. Most of these people, there are other entities out there that deal with, there's dumpsters, there's dump bags, there's got junk, there's all these other entities out there that deal with these things. So when you have a project and you're remodeling your kitchen or whatever, go and get a dumpster, we're not set up to take a large amount of material down there, and it wasn't set up for that. So if people are willing to pay $70 to $100 a truckload, maybe we could consider that, but that's not the case. And the problem that we run into is that when we get into the selling of tickets, we're not taking, my people are not taking any money down there anymore. They are not being, and then we have people who come and say, well, that's only a half a truckload, that's only this many tickets, or it's only that many tickets. The way it's working right now is working very well. When you start getting into the sale of tickets, I'm not sure how many people are gonna come and pay $100 to buy, to pay for it.
Well, there you go, but at least you provided the opportunity for the citizens to make a choice. So, win-win, if no one uses it, it's on the books, you've made it available, and there you go, that's the end of the story. Whereas if it's not available, at least if you have a choice of renter, and let's say your renter is remodeling their whole flat, but it sounds like, the individuals that came tonight just had maybe a few items that they needed to, possibly want to discard. And I'm not even talking about people with flats, I have a whole tower of people, on the far south side on Lake Drive, that, those individuals may not be here this evening, but they've also talked about, an opportunity to maybe discard some things, and again, a willingness to pay. We want to provide that opportunity to them.
Okay, I'm gonna go, are you done, Alderman? I didn't wanna cut you off. I'm gonna go to Alderman Johnson, then I think Alderman Liquid.
Well, I was in the same thing. I'm just saying, like, let's say you could buy the yellow ticket, known as the golden ticket, for $50, which is pricey, but I think a lot of people would do it. I mean, I know myself, I have one ticket left and
Want to sell it? Apparently there's a good market.
well, no, 75, no. But, I mean, I think if we made them available for $50, that people would buy them. And they're gonna say it's pricey, I know, but it's like, it costs a lot of money to get rid of the garbage. And I realize that. I mean, the price of garbage has gone up and up and up and up and up, you know? And, but I don't have a problem with making them available for people to,
Okay, you have to make, if you do choose to go that route, you have to make sure that the dollars are up high enough that we're
Yeah.
not losing money as compared to making money.
well, I mean, we could have a discussion for another day, but or we'd throw it on an agenda. You knew, I'm not sure exactly how to do this.
It would go to the Board of Public
We don't
Works.
set the fees here.
Okay.
Right, okay.
But-
So we got you through on that one? Or you got any?
Yeah, no.
Okay, I'm not trying to cut anybody else short.
No, I'm fine.
Okay, we're gonna go Alderman Liquid here, and then I think we're doing Alderman Morales. Alderman Liquid.
Being on the Board of Public Works, the only problem is with just selling the tickets. We actually had people who live in 8 families, 16 families who do not pay the recycling fee. So they're not even paying for the dump. So then they're buying the tickets, they're dumping stuff at basically a loss for the city. And then we also had at the mobile home park over by Valvoline, the guy who used to drive around every week and pick up his tenants' garbage in a pickup truck, charge them, and then he would come down for $20 and then dump it all because he has a Cudahy address. So the problem is, if you have, let's say, Lakeshore Towers, or a big, I assume that's the tower we're talking about, on the south
Yeah.
side, they have dumpsters because of the size. They don't have recycling carts. So they can't just go take a car for $10 or a minivan for $10 or a pickup truck for 20 and dump, let's say, clean out somebody's house and then go dump it for 20, because basically the people who have the recycling carts, that's what we had to take into consideration when we had the old ticket system before we gave the 2 Willy Wonka gold tickets and the 15 recycling for yard waste and recyclables. We had people who lived in an 8 family or a 16 family, or a landlord who was basically, that was a business, and then they're going and they're taking mattresses and couches and stuff that like their tenants left. We're subsidizing some businesses out there. Same thing with contractors. I mean, Mary Jo, we asked Scott Revelinsky, he's the superintendent for, her field superintendent, what was in most of those roll-offs, and it was replacement windows and a bunch of construction waste. I mean, you had a guy coming in every week with 20 replacement windows, where
Big house, lots of windows.
it's an awful big house, or he's got somebody who changes taste like every week, where they keep doing the windows. And unfortunately, it kind of screws it up for the regular resident who, and I mean, if we were about to sell the tickets again, I mean, when people are bouncing off numbers of $2 and free, and all of a sudden we come out with the golden, like, you could buy additional golden tickets for $90. I mean, they're gonna, but I mean, that's the cost. I mean, I don't know of any, I mean, somebody might just get a bagster from like Waste Management or something, you know.
And
Okay.
then just
Alderman Morales.
to bring that back to full circle to spring cleanup then, I mean, instead of $50 a golden ticket extra, wouldn't the one additional time of $31 kind of take care of a lot of that issues? You know, the question that I had, just trying to keep us on topic of spring cleanup, because that's what's on the agenda, is if we, just so everybody's clear, if the council decides to do this, we would need to send out then another separate bill to everybody for $31, $32, or whatever it's going to be. And I would assume we would have to bid that quickly to,
Right.
But it wouldn't even be able to be included in this year's tax bill.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, we'd have,
Send out an additional bill. The problem with spring cleanup though, is that not everyone, the 8 families, the 16 families, whatever, put whatever stuff along the curb, and so.
And I get it.
Probably 25% never pay a recycling fee, but take the full, but what are we supposed to do? Pass by it?
I get it.
So.
Yeah, and We'll go on and on, but one comment, I mean, we had two people that came here tonight that expressed that they were tenants, and they weren't given the tickets that the business owner, i.e. the landlord, because being a property owner is a business, okay? That business owner, and we did verify the addresses, did or didn't come down for those tickets to provide to those tenants to use the municipal dump and rake the leaves and everything else, the yard waste, et cetera. Where'd those tickets go? If the very nice tenants that were before us tonight came down here and said they don't have them, where'd they go? Where'd they go? They use them on another property? They use them in another rental property? I don't know. Again, they're obviously not offering them to this tenant. Did they sell them? I don't know. But again, as a property owner, somebody who's paying the garbage and the recycling fee, those landlords could come down here, pick up those tickets, and provide them to their tenants. But apparently they did. Alderman Hollenbeck.
To Alderman Morales' point, what we have here are two separate issues. We have the spring cleanup, and what I heard from a majority of the people speaking was they were okay with how we're doing it now. It's dump policies, procedures, prices, you know, that they are. And looking at the agenda, as Alderman Morales stated, this isn't really what we're here for. We're really here to do spring cleanup. I know they work hand in hand. You know, it had been mentioned, you know, about an 8-foot truck. At the Board of Public Works, when that was discussed, I had a 79 F-150 8-foot. I know they're out there, all kinds of trucks. We had the chair call Ford, you know, that's not what's current. However, if someone doesn't have anything but that, and as long as they don't have it filled to the gill, I'm told they'll allow it there.
Yeah. And whether it
So-
was Frank, the part-time employee, again, contracted, that did it, the little nice old guy that people love to swear at, or now our current DPW employees, again, that they've used some good professional judgment, to your point, Alderman, is that, and Alderman Lickwick uses this example all the time, if somebody comes in with an 8-foot truck and has a big wheel on the back, they're not gonna turn them away, because all they have is the big wheel in there.
While I feel bad for the landlords that are left with the furniture and stuff like that, they are running a business. They have rental property. And, you know, I totally get that. I totally get the people that run construction work out of their house or do side jobs. I totally get that. It just comes to be, you know, do we supplement that? You know, how does the city have to deal with that? You know, as it was stated, the majority of what we were seeing was construction material. And yes, you know, in going backwards, it was those bad apples that kind of ruined it for that, because the costs were just getting astronomical. And, you know, and ultimately, that's where we look at this, is the costs, priorities. You know, I can't see increasing, you know, both fees to bring back spring cleanup. You know, when, especially kind of what I heard here for the people that took the time out was, they're okay with how it's being done. You know, I'm not saying everyone said it was great or that, but I'm not hearing that. I didn't hear that from constituents that contacted me. And I'm not saying that they're not out there that, you know, want spring cleanup back, because I'm sure they are. I came here to Cudahy in '94, we had a fall cleanup. You know, it would be great to be able to bring that back, but where are we gonna get the financing from? What I hear the majority of is, what are we doing about roads? What are we doing about trees? Those are the things that I hear. Those are things that also for the last 30 years that we've been neglecting, and we're now starting to take care of it. You know, we can't correct everything in a short amount of time. You know, my look and outlook, and you know, someone had just recently said that that's not quick enough. I look at it as if we can get the roads in excellent condition in the next 15 years, we did things right. You know, I don't see how we can do it in 5 or even 10 years, because it's taken over 30 years to get where we're at. But the priority I see is this compromise of the tickets works. You know, can we look at changing some of the rules or modifying it as far as the dump procedures and stuff? Yeah, we can bring that back to the Board of Public Works and see if there's anything. But when we came up with this, to review this was done August 4th of 2015. I looked at all of the council members and said, not the 2 new ones, because this was a different council, and asked if there was a better solution, or if they had money to pay for it. There was dead silence for 30 seconds. Anyone that's got the audio can go back and listen to that. So we put this compromise in place. The service is still there, it's changed. They have to take it to there. Is there a little bit hardship for people that don't have trucks? Yeah, there most certainly is. You know, we can't make it work for everyone. I get a couple calls every so often about the city doing special pickups. That changed a long time ago. And the thing is, in the day and age, what people have to think about is, if one of our DPW workers go and grab someone's couch, throws out their back, that's a workman's comp, and now we're paying that. Now we're paying for someone that's not here. Or if in the process of them taking that out, knocks down a TV or destroys some glass. That just doesn't happen in today's standards. You know, if they buy a couch or a bed, a lot of times they'll take the old one away if you get it delivered. You know, I understand with TVs and electronics, you know, everyone wants a flat screen and all the latest and stuff, what to do with all the other equipment. We had an e-waste. Would I like to have a lot more of those? Yeah. But you know, Best Buy used to take them for free, they now charge. There's becoming that type of costs. You know, it costs us to do it. You know, and what are we supposed to do? That just eats out of the other money. So where do we go from here? You know, like I said, you know, getting back to what we have here, I'm in support of leaving in right now the ticket system we have.
Yeah, Alderman Lindquist.
The problem that I see with you know, bringing back spring cleanup for $31 is you only have a portion of the city that actually uses it, so you'd be imposing a fee on 6,500 rate users where only a fraction use it, and you still have people from other cities coming and dumping junk in our city that basically very, you know, like a fraction use, but like everybody's gonna pay for it. So I mean, take for instance, I'll use her because I know her, she's my aunt. I have an aunt that doesn't even know we have a transfer station, and I can guarantee you from the amount of garbage she generates, doesn't use fall or spring cleanup or when we had it, and never even knew it existed. Now, why would we vote to put like a 31, or anybody that we know that's not here or even here who, you know, who doesn't use the spring cleanup or doesn't, you know, utilize it? That's an extra 31, you know, that's an extra $31 charge that's only gonna benefit few, but everybody has to pay it. You know, and as a compromise, we did the 2 golden tickets, and as Alderman Hollenbeck says, we provide the service. The only complaint I had was from one of our Board of Public Works. I don't know how big his yard is, but he ran out of the green tickets. You know, he's got a lot of yard, you know, landscaping stuff and that. But like, from the people that I've talked to, they're happy. I received 3 emails, 1 from the 1st district, which everybody got, and 2 from 4th district, where they just said keep it as is with the current ticket system. So I can't see charging everybody a $31 fee, and then we're gonna have to come back next year and ask for more money just to keep the status, you know, to actually build up a little bit of a reserve.
Alderman Morales.
And I can't argue that. I mean, that's been my public opinion all along, is that personally, I feel the exact same way, that we should not impose a fee on everyone to subsidize a few. unfortunately, or however, fortunately, however you want to look at it, my experience has been very different in the first district, and my residents clearly want the program bought back,
Sure,
and are
and
willing to pay
that's why
it.
you're
So,
advocating on behalf of your residents.
and that's, and so I encourage everybody to vote what they think their district, obviously recommends. So I still remain opposed to this, even though personally, I'm against it. I haven't picked up my 2 tickets at all. I've never used spring cleanup. I never probably would. I don't generate enough trash for it to be worthwhile, but if that's what my constituents want, that's the way I have to vote.
Okay. Members of the council, what's your pleasure?
I'll move to keep it as is.
I will second that.
Moved by Alderman Lickwood, second by Alderman Hollenbeck, to keep the spring cleanup system the same as the council had approved last year. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Is that your second?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, we're gonna go Alderman
Ladies
Lickwood, we're gonna go.
Ladies first.
No, we're gonna go Alderman
Ladies,
Lickwood.
ladies first.
Robert's rules, we're gonna go Alderman Lickwood and Alderman
All right.
St. Marie Belko.
And just as a point of order, I'm not adamantly, vehemently, like, this is the platform I ran to keep spring cleanup out, down and out, to eliminate it for all of eternity. It's just financially, it's a service that I can't see socking everybody with at least $31, and then we're gonna be asking for even more money. You know, I can't see charging everybody for something that a few use. And then you're gonna have the people who aren't even paying for it still using it, you know, unfortunately.
Alderwoman St. Marie Belko on the discussion.
As far as my constituents, as far as what I've heard, they actually are okay with the tickets, as far as the golden tickets to use at the transfer site, to do their spring type cleanup, bigger items, and again, even usage of the other tickets. The idea is to maintain service. Definitely, you know, is it nice to have spring cleanup? Sure, I've lived in Cudahy all my life. So here and there in my family, I guess, even growing up, we didn't consistently use spring cleanup or even fall cleanup, but we have used it. And even where I live now on Cleveforth, we've used it. However, listening and participating in more, I guess, opportunities to learn more about what we need to do and in prioritizing with Public Works. Sitting at the meeting yesterday and then the additional information from our director, Mary Jo. I just, again, and my constituents are okay with, we have the service. They have an opportunity, they have to physically take it there, but they can actually have an opportunity to remove larger items, more of that spring, fall cleanup with the golden tickets. So to not impose additional fees at this time unnecessarily, but maintain the service, is why, again, I believe, as others do, sure, I like the service, but it's just not gonna work financially right now. And we, as you've heard from Mary Jo, our reserve is running low. We're gonna need more carts. So we're gonna have to look at the idea of a way to finance that in the next few months, in the coming year. So I believe in maintaining where we're at today, with, and not having spring cleanup, but with using yellow tickets.
One more thing, Mayor.
Discussion, Alderman Morales.
I don't know if we can bring Supervisor Lang up. Can you just maybe address, because we've touched on the reserves running low. Since 2011, we have actually had revenues exceed expenditures in the recycling fund. It's only because of the $175,000 for the garbage cart purchase out of that fund, and I guess the anticipated $100,000 more that was in your sheet that you gave out
Well,
yesterday.
Right, if you look at the history since, I believe, when did we have it,
2009.
2009.
Yeah.
There were years of deficit and years of
But that was 2009,
surpluses.
10, and 11, I
Yeah.
believe.
Correct. In 2009, the actual deficit to the recycling fund was $12,000 and change. The deficit in 2010 was $9,000 and change. The 2011 was actually 28,000 to the good. 2012 was 90,000 to the good. 2013 was 35,000 to the good, 2014 was 56,000 to the good, 2015 was 10,000 to the good, projected 2016, because we're not through the whole year yet, is 30,000 and change to the negative.
And that's because of the cart purchase, but I think that,
The negative isn't necessarily to the cart purchase.
It was hauling yard waste.
It's the thing that's the scary part of this whole thing is that our yard waste now, we can take to a farm free of charge. We used to have it growing power. The year we lost growing power, we had to take it to advanced disposal and pay out $45 per ton tipping fee. That cost us that year about $40,000. So if you look at the expenses, they keep fluctuating. So I said it's been very, very hard for me to keep monitoring and pulling these things up so that we can provide all those services. But we're at the point now where yeah, we did use any of the surplus that we would have in operating to offset operating deficit. We have used that for the carts. And it took a while to save up that
And if
amount.
the farm cuts us off, how much? 50?
Yeah, 50, we'll be looking at 50.
and I think it's just important for everybody to know that, you know, we're not driving this recycling fund into the ground by using the deficit, you know, or the reserve fund. I
No.
think that it very clearly,
No.
we're doing the exact opposite,
Right.
so.
Right, and back on the point of the cost of getting rid of the yard waste and the leaves, South Milwaukee, for example, again, talking about comparables, when the leaves where we used to be able to take them to growing power, now we take them to the farm. South Milwaukee used to take their leaves to Milwaukee County, and they would chip them up and put them back in the parks, and I have a joke about this and say, they must be radioactive like our leaves, because now they too followed our DPW trucks last year, and now they take them out to the same farm that we take ours out to, because they were faced with the same thing. Again, used to be able to be kept right here in the county, but that is what it is. And again, that drives the cost and causes some more of that volatility that you see every year within the fund.
That's all I have.
Okay.
And
Any
when
further
we
discussion?
say free, we still have to pay for the fuel to get it out to the farm.
Yeah, you
Correct.
still have that trucking.
Yeah, I mean, there's
cost, yeah.
costs, there's
Right,
labor,
correct.
there's trucking
There's costs.
costs.
We're not paying additional disposal fees,
Yeah.
if you will.
Right.
Okay.
So
Any further
technically it's
discussion?
not free.
Correct. Any further discussion? On a roll call, please. Lock in your votes. 2, 3, 4, 5 voting yes, 1 voting no. Motion carries 4-1. Thank you.
All right, new business. New business, discussion and necessary action